2025加拿大金融地產峰會。
欢迎回到2025加拿大金融地产峰会的现场，我是主持人张玉。
Welcome back to the 2025 Economic and Housing Forum. I'm Clement Tang, and this session will be focusing on urban development, housing supply, and industry collaboration, in exploring how can we build a more sustainable model for our urban growth.
那参与本场讨论的嘉宾有枫树岭市长 Dan Rumi。
Joining us today, beside me, we have Mayor Dan Rumi, Mayor of Maple Ridge.
温哥华市议员周南。
Lenny Zhou, Vancouver City Councillor.
本拿比市议员王白净。
James Wang, Burnaby City Councillor.
昆特兰大学商学院教授张国任。
Professor Gordon Zhang from Melville School of Business at KPU.
北斗集团营运副总裁 Charmaine。
Shireen Pawambi, VP Operations of Beidou Group.
Opal by Element 执行副总裁 Ernie He。Last
but not least, Ernie He, Executive VP of Vopal by Element. I guess we're going to start with our conversation now, so let's start with you, Mayor Rumi. In Greater Vancouver, especially in your city, we've seen significant population growth in the recent years while facing increasing pressure on the infrastructure funds, but also the affordable side. How is your city actually, in terms of city planning, how can you remain livability while continuing attracting more investments to support residential development?
Well, just for context, 20 years ago, our population was about 45,000. We are now going to break 110,000 this year. And when we look at what we've done in the past, we're behind about $1 billion in infrastructure. So if you're talking about affordability, and a lot of the topics that were discussed earlier, they all impact, they all work together. If you don't have rapid transit, if you don't have transit, we're end of line. So while it's cheaper to buy a home in Maple Ridge, the latest survey says $25,000 more in transportation costs when you move to Maple Ridge because there's not the transit there to support you. So when we look at what senior levels can do for us, right? We are doing the new legislation, which is fine. We have no issues following that. We have exceeded our housing targets by 23%. That's great. But what about the infrastructure? Where is that money coming from? How are we going to increase our roads? When I look at our traditional growth rate, 11% a year, that's not going to stop because people will continue to move our way. Even though immigration numbers are down, even though general growth rates are going to drop, people want to move to Maple Ridge because of what we have. Lakes, rivers, mountains. We have a beautiful place to live in. So these are challenges. Where am I going to put 25,000 more cars in the next 10 years? I can't. I need to increase our capacity to open up another road, and that's one of the things that we're doing. We have to try to find ways of building more, getting more jobs into Maple Ridge so people can live, work, and play in Maple Ridge. These are the challenges that we're faced, but we're heading those challenges right on, right? We're building the homes. We are increasing our capacity. We have 600 acres of industrial land that is, we are widening the road to get to that point. But that money comes from us. That money comes from our taxpayers in Maple Ridge. There's no federal dollars for that. There's no provincial dollars for that. So how do we do that? We know that 600 acres of industrial land is critical because there's such a shortage of industrial lands. So they are all connected. The more that you can do that, the more housing we can build, but we've got to be able to maintain a standard of life that allows people to live, work, and play in Maple Ridge.
Thanks for the insights, Mayor. Let's now hear from Lenny on this topic. Vancouver continues to rank among the highest in housing prices across Canada, so facing pressures from supply, prices, and rental demand. What specific policies will the city prioritize next?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me to this conference. Also, on behalf of City of Vancouver, welcome everyone to the City of Vancouver for this very important conference. Back to housing, I think housing is our #1 priority. So if you think about all the social issue we are facing in Vancouver, the fundamental reason and the root cause is lack of housing, especially lack of affordable housing. If you think about the homelessness issue, right? Also, a lot of employers, they are not able to find employees. And also, our healthcare system, because I work in healthcare for 15 years, I know exactly the issue there. Lack of nursing, lack of doctor is the main reason, because city is getting too expensive. Even doctor, they cannot afford living in the city. That's a big issue here. So anyway, that's the reason why housing is our #1 priority. And in the past 3 years, we're using a lot of policy to expedite it, fast track, also simplify our process, and deliver more housing. The reason is very simple. We need to deliver more housing faster. So we have this 3331 policy, which I don't have time to elaborate. So basically, based on different housing type, we're gonna get the permit within 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, and 1 year. So that's one. Also, we fast track all the Broadway plan project, Canby Corridor. We have this new Rupert Renfrew plan passed in the summer. So, also for Broadway plan, like if you comply with the zoning policy, there's no rezoning needed anymore. So that basically saved 12 to 15 months for our applicant. So actually this week, we passed a bunch of measurements to support viability for our development project. Like we have a 20% reduction for DCL. And also we have the deferral program for DCL. You only need to pay 25% upfront and 75% at the end. And also, we remove this, the transportation demand management, which also save $100,000 for our applicant or developers. And we made that CBA agreement, which is community benefit agreement, optional. Like before, you have to sign this agreement, which also another burden for all the housing development. Other than that, also we relax some of the policy to deliver more affordable below the market rental. So a lot of measurement, which I don't have time to elaborate a lot. And guess what? In the past 3 years, Vancouver will deliver the most housing in the region, especially the rental housing. I think the number shows in the past 2 years, City of Vancouver alone will deliver almost 10,000 rental housing in the city, way ahead of all other municipalities. Number 2 was Surrey. So Surrey only delivered 1,800. We are 10,000. So it's not even comparable. So because of, and also for the future, we have our first official ODP, official development plan coming to council next year, hopefully in the spring or in the summer. So if we pass that policy, like Minister mentioned in the previous panel, there's no public hearing needed. That's another 12 months saved from the developers. So we are trying everything we can in our toolbox to support viability, to support and deliver more housing. But again, this is a very complex issue. Inflation is out of our control, and also there's a trade war with United States. How can Vancouver do? So that's something we have no control over. What we can do is use our toolbox and support as much as possible to support deliver more housing. That's exactly what City of Vancouver has been doing.
Well, we heard many good things about City of Vancouver. Let's turn to City of Burnaby. We see key redevelopment projects in Brentwood, Metrotown, etc. So, in your opinion, what is going to be in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of development direction? Where is City of Burnaby heading?
Yeah, those housing, those developments still be growing, and the growth in the anticipate in the first of all in those 4 town centers, Brentwood, Metrotown, Edmonds, and Low He. So we just adopted the new OCP, and all those parcel land-based those map just shown in those new OCPs. And we also, in the 2022, we adopted the community's urban village plan that including the 2 of them. One is the Banbridge. Banbridge is close to the Sporting SkyTrain. That is also urban transit urban village plan. They expected have over 10 million square feet housing in the future, if it's possible. So, and we do have some other big project expected in the next 5-10 years. That including one is down the Canada Way and Wellington. There's right across BCIT. So that is called Crescent Village. That is also urban transit, oriented, village that including many housing and many others that can fully support the growth of the job and many others. So also we talk about the BCIT. BCIT have their own plan. They can create even those on-campus housing as well.
Thank you so much, Councillor Wen. Professor Gordon, how about you take on this? Currently, both British Columbia and the rest of the country are facing challenges of population growth, housing shortages, and declining affordability. And so in your view, how should we respond to the process of urbanization and promote more high-density development?
We have seen earlier discussions of the policymakers about housing, about densities. I think over the last many years, zoning for higher density is a key issue. But my personal observation is over the last 2 years also, the developers, they stopped talking about higher density for zoning because they don't see that as the key problem for them. Okay, the key issue here is the financial viability. Okay, even the government, the policymakers gave them higher density, how they can make money out of this? Okay, that's the key question. And we have seen so many projects stalled, so many projects are not starting because of the financial viability, not the zoning issue. So we do want to solve the urbanization by having higher density. But the traditional model of the developers do pre-sales, the banks will lend money based on those, and the buildings got built. Those models are not working in this market in 2025. So how can we solve these issues? So I see a couple of points that the industry and the government can work together. Number one is we may have to refocus from the high-rise condo model to the rental market. And the government can actually help the rental market by providing reasonable policies and at the same time making organizations like CMHC can provide financing to the developers so that the developers do not have to rely on pre-sale market to get those buildings to build those buildings. At the same time, we don't have to focus on high-rises. The government have policies like Bill 44 or Bill 47. We haven't seen the market fully capitalized on those policies. But at the same time, I do believe that instead of focusing the high-rising models, high-rising condos that are very costly, that are hard to build, and at the same time, it takes 7 to 10 years at least to build those buildings. Maybe we can focus on 4 to 6 stories of wood frame buildings. Okay, at the same time, we're going to use BC products, the soft lumbers. So at the same time, maybe the government can provide policies to pre-approve some of those projects so that the developers don't have to wait that long. And speaking of densities, I don't think it's only for the traditional measurement of FSR. We can also measure the density by timing. Okay, if the government can shorten the approval period, that's more density as well.
嗱咁時間關係咧，我哋暫時先傾到呢一度，休息翻嚟之後咧，我哋再繼續進行討論。歡迎翻返嚟節目時間，我哋同台上面嘅嘉賓呢一齊繼續翻頭先嘅議題。Shireen, There has been frequent discussion within the industry regarding declining developer confidence. As a business leader yourself, what kind of signals do you think the market needs to regain its momentum?
I guess the biggest one is the cost, because somebody has to pay for that, right? And to not to directly bring up the point of City of Burnaby, it's a great program, CP program, right? But does city pay for that? The answer is no. So at the end of the day, this is additional cost now for the developer who is hiring consultants, right? So it doesn't reduce our building permit fee, but it actually adds a burden. So all the policies are great, right? But for example, a city of Vancouver, right? They're not talking about the community building, but at the end of the day, we even in the previous discussions, we heard about the development cost charges, that there are going to be certain charges. But again, the question is, yes, we are certain about those charges, but look at the cost of those charges. We are paying about $70,000 to $90,000 a door in City of Burnaby. We talk about City of Vancouver, great, yeah, Vancouver has the highest cost. We're talking about $100,000 to $120,000 a door. Same thing, City of Coquitlam, they're adopting another plan starting April of 2026. They're also working on the CP program. Great, they actually adopted from Burnaby. But again, the question is the same. That CP, if we are talking about a 24-month project, which is a 6-story, you can ask many developers, maybe in this room, they are paying about $300,000, $400,000 to those per year to keep up with the project. Because now, yes, great, you have brought something in to expedite the permit. And to Gordon's point, when it's taken 7 to 10 years to build a high-rise, someone can tell me, or I can tell you, that out of that 7 to 10 years, what is the construction period versus what's the time period the project is actually going into the municipality, is starting the development approval, or the pre-approval of the plan versus the building permit is picked up. On average in City of Vancouver, it's about 5 years. So half of all the life cycle of the project, it's sitting with the municipality. So that is not helping any developer. That is very discouraging. That is very, very discouraging. And at the end of the day, like I said, somebody has to pay. There is a cost associated to it. There is a carrying cost on the project. Not just that, when we start building, again, we have to deal with a lot more rules in terms of traffic control. Who would think about traffic control being a cost? It's a huge cost for a general contractor that we carry. It comes out of our general conditions. We've got a cost to pay if we have to close a sidewalk, because we are building, in Vancouver, of course, we talk about high densities, but with high densities, we run into an issue of feasibility. We've got a project that we are working in, and we are actually working to try to cut the density down because it's no more feasible to build. So these are really some challenges that developers are facing. There are projects out in market even right now which are available. But the problem with those is they've been approved for such high density that city is approving that. Like somebody is approving that, right? In the city, there's a staff that's reviewing that. So the question comes again back to what the province in general is doing. And I know in the last panel, we were talking about why every municipality is different, and that's exactly the question I have. If I have to deal with City of Vancouver versus City of Coquitlam, it's different. We have currently got projects in every municipality. Langley, Surrey, Coquitlam, Maple Ridge, Burnaby. But I can tell you that every municipality has something different. So why don't we standardize? We're all from British Columbia. We're all from Lower Mainland, that's what we call, right? So every municipality you go to, there is something different. Now you gotta learn that process. You gotta bring experts in, you gotta pay the fee, and then you need to get your project approved, and then guess what? You're gonna build it as well. And while you're building it, you still got all those costs to pay. And with the condo market decline, yes, we've got rental options, but just like we've got limited programs to it as well.
Thank you, Charmaine. I feel your struggle. To continue To continue the conversation, Mr. Ernie He, what insights can you share with the growing aging of the population? Do you think developers should incorporate more intergenerational and age-friendly elements when planning future residential projects?
The answer is yes. And why do we do that? Demographics will tell you. I don't need to tell you that. The 75 plus age group is increasing sharply. The demand for seniors communities is going up dramatically. And you know what's interesting? I've been in all areas of real estate and sectors, and we always talk about demand, whether it's a shopper, whether it's a retail, or whether it's an office user or otherwise. This market, this industry is driven not by economic cycles, but by demographic inevitability. 20 years from now, the 75 plus age group will double. Think about that. Demand for care-based housing that we're in can't be deferred. It's based on health needs, safety, and family decisions. That's what's driving our market. And adults want to stay in their communities typically, but unfortunately face limited options that are both age-appropriate and professionally supported, and that's answering the question. Very few purpose-built projects in recent years have gone ahead despite rising need. And I sit on the BC Care Providers Association board, and my competitors are actually not going ahead with a lot of projects. Many of them are funded, and the government involvement recently in the last couple of months is making it extremely challenging. But expanding choice for aging adults enhances neighborhood livability, and I'm saying that to all the politicians, all the policymakers. We're a good neighbor. We behave in laws, we're quiet. We don't generally have loud parties, except on birthdays. When we celebrate 100 years of living, we have a big celebration for that. And so I'm asking you to start thinking about different uses. You know, I was involved in the subdivision world when I was still in Alberta, and the municipalities used to put big plans out, and the developers would allocate the various lots, institutionals for schools and retail and office, multifamily, single family. And I always thought to myself, where is the senior zoning? And typically in these subdivisions, they look at the worst piece of land in the subdivision, they say, let's zone that seniors. They don't care. They will put them in the very corner of the subdivision. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we should be at the front of the subdivision. This is an economic choice, and it's a great choice. And we know where the condo market and multifamily and rental market may be going. We're not sure yet. So think of seniors communities when you're developing either your existing land or rezoning. You know, besides the two that we're actively own, we're collaborating with a couple of sites, and we're going to various municipalities and saying, look, you know, we're a business as well as a piece of real estate. And that's what people don't understand. When you operate a seniors community, my Opal Vancouver, we employ 135 people besides the 120 residents that we have. So we're a business, we pay property taxes, we're great neighbors, we give back to the community, we try to be very active that way. So I think it's the best use of land. And I've been doing this a long time, and I've gone through malls, and the discount mall at YVR was a deal that I did. They're all great real estate. But we have to start thinking this is the use. And who is going to make us think that? Our parents, us. I'm a senior. And you know, we used to talk about seniors being 65 plus. Now it's 80. Our average age in Opal and most of my competitors is in the mid-80s. People start thinking about communities and seniors living in their late 70s. When my father and mother were seniors, we started thinking about that when they're in their early 60s. Can you imagine that? That has changed dramatically. Medicine has obviously helped that, but I think it's a change in attitude, and as a community, I think we have to start thinking that way. These are living parents who are going to live a long time, and economically, we want to put them in communities. We want them to thrive. We want them to live out their last years happy, not in an apartment building or in a single-family house where the postman becomes who visits them. That's crazy.
Thank you, every panelist here, to bringing us valuable insights from public policy to real estate to senior living. I'm sure it provided us a better understanding in terms of urban development and the importance of industry collaboration.
感谢各位嘉宾的精彩分享。那我们第二部分的讨论就到这里，
Thank you.
谢谢。